Did you feel like a point was a fair result from that one?
Yeah, I think so. I think on the balance of play that tipped further in our favour in the second half, I would say uh, a point is a good one. I think a point here in general is a good one when you weigh in how difficult a place it is to come for the obvious reasons. And I think with how we fell behind just before half time, it does. Yeah, it's a literal mountain to climb in that sense, particularly here. And I think the fact that we were able to make some adaptations half time really respond well to those and start the game with the real energy and a real life, which I think set the course for the second half. That was really important, and the I think the fact that it allows us to preserve that record of not having lost back-to-back league games with only two remaining is no small achievement in any way, and that's what I want to leave here with, that sense of pride in the group's reaction, and that's certainly the final thought that I want lingering in the players' minds as they leave here, because as much as it wasn't again a performance to write home about, there was a lot that we would love to correct, a lot that we will certainly talk about over the course of the coming days and weeks. I think it's a really good point, and as I say, it allows us to keep chipping away. It keeps us hopefully in touch with the top two, and it makes the last couple of games really interesting.
Coming out of San Diego, Nectar said he hadn't had a shot from the halfway line since his youth career. When you were looking at his scouting report, did he have any ability to hit from distance before he came here?
He strikes the ball really, really well, and what you've seen tonight is a very complete performance, I would say, in the middle. And I'll just pick up on probably the way I described him post San Diego when I got asked a lot of questions about him. He's very physical, very athletic, really helps us in that sense, which is, of course, something that we've been reliant on up until this point, and I've obviously lost a little bit of that with Tani having left and Kelvin being in the position that he's in. So the combination of that Nectar brings, plus the calmness on the ball, plus the ability to drive from deep, plus the ability to strike the ball very cleanly from the edge of the box, it really helps, because I think obviously with the situation we're in with the squad at the moment, we have to find goals as a group, because that certainly won't be an easy thing for us between now and the end of the season. So I think the fact that he's chipped in tonight and has shown that real desperation to get on the score sheet, and that real will to win, which I was desperate for the group to show in the second half, is another big step forward for him, and it shows his importance to the group.
That's now 9 league games unbeaten on the road. Why is this team so good away from home?
A lot of it is to do with mentality and character and togetherness, and we are a group that always feels like we can turn a situation that is seemingly against us very quickly. And I don't think we're now at a stage where that's necessarily reliant on moments of individual brilliance or individual quality. It's a collective mentality that means that there's number one, the grit and determination to stay in a game, which is something that we've done really well over the course of this year. I haven't checked all that recently, but I think for the large majority of the season, we've been the team that's been behind least. And if that's the case, then you're always giving yourself a chance to do what we've done tonight and do what we've done on a load of occasions. And as much as I was bitterly disappointed walking in at half time with the manner in which we conceded the first goal, I always had that sense in the second half, if we responded well to the way in which we changed the shape and the personnel, that we'd have a really good chance. And we got ourselves back in the game, but then we also showed that determination and will and discipline to keep the ball out the back of the net at the end of the game, which was tough, and certainly from their perspective, they are a team that is fighting for their lives to stay above that playoff line, and the closing stages of the game felt that way, and we really had to put bodies on the line in certain instances, and show, as I've said, a desperation. I use that word a lot, but I think we're at that stage where that is what the group needs to show. I didn't talk a great deal over the course of this week or before the game from a tactical perspective today. I just wanted the group to get back to doing what it does well, and I think if we're a good version of ourselves moving forward, then I know we can be competitive against anyone.
How did you feel like Fitz made an impact in the second half?
Yeah, I think if he was to look back, I'm sure he'd be disappointed with a number of turnovers, and I think it probably it's a shock to the system. I think playing here from a physical perspective, and that's something that I'm not too sure he would have dealt with previously in his career. And as I've said a couple of times, I think the physical level of MLS is very high. I don't think it falls far below some of the top levels in Europe. And I think that there will be an adaptation in that sense. The demands certainly that we place on players from a defensive perspective, and the spaces that we want them to be able to attack in on the transition, the demands from a defensive set play perspective. It's tough to play in this team, but it's also tough to play in the league from a physical perspective. So I think that will take some time for sure, and we will do our very best to work with him in that sense.
What was sort of your plan or your thinking about shifting to a back four at halftime?
Yeah, we struggled in the first half to get really good pressure on the ball, and missed a lot of the cues that we would normally pick up on that would allow us to work our way up the pitch. And yeah, we're not a team that presses high constantly, but when we press properly, typically when we're at our very best. And I didn't think that was the case in the first half. More often than not, when we tried to build pressure, we ended up being late in the first instance, and then we followed that up with more lateness, excessive lateness, and then it puts you in a really poor position from a defensive perspective. Obviously, if you change shape, then it gives you a better chance of building pressure. It gives you another player to connect with higher up the pitch when you turn the ball over. But the game, obviously, at that point also becomes more open than we would like, and it was a trade-off that I was willing to make at half time. And I think given the situation that we're in the league, without getting ahead of myself, the comfort, I suppose, in the position that we're in at the moment, I think it was worth the risk, and it was obviously one that paid off.
Eric, you talked yesterday about rotating up top. Do you feel like you'll do that going forward after Bongi's performance, or do you feel like he did enough to keep a spot?
No, I think Bongi played really well, and he did. I want to say played really well. If you know the demands that we put on a person who plays in that position, and some of the stuff that they have to work towards off the ball, and the level of relentlessness it takes, then he does a really good job there. And Bongi is not someone that you have to ask to defend. He's not someone that you have to ask to run back, to stay connected to the team, to spot pressing triggers. He's an incredibly honest player, and we're drawing on his versatility at the moment. And I said to him at the end, I think he did really well for the team. Of course, there's a difference between Tani and Bongi. There's a difference between Kelvin and Bongi. There's a difference between playing with Tani and Kelvin, and then playing your wing back of 30 games this season as a number 9. It's not going to feel like it did feel when we were probably at our most competitive, at our best a couple of months ago. And we will have to be a team that really works at finding a solution to some of the problems that we have at the moment. But tonight was a step forward in that sense, and if we take anything from it, it's that we can find a way to pick up really good points, and make no mistake, this is a really, really good point here. And Bongi will play his part. Whether that's something that we go with next week remains to be seen. It'll definitely give me some food for thought over the course of this week. And yeah, we'll see what we settle on come Friday.
There were a number of moments, especially in the first half, where we saw the team trying to play through Colorado's press, where maybe in the past we would have expected just to see Dane go long over the top. What was sort of the thinking behind that?
Yeah, that's another phase of the adaptation that we're going to have to go through at the moment, in the sense that the squad does look very different to how it looked when we were at our, as I say, our very competitive best, and threatening to really make a push for the Supporters' Shield, and everything that went with that. We don't now have two powerful, athletic, aggressive number 9s at the top of the pitch. So that is going to require us to look slightly different in certain moments of the game. And I think we had some success. We had some moments where we turned the ball over very cheaply, but there was more good than bad. And yeah, we are a team that can handle the ball in the first third, but in order to be a team that does that and then be one of the top teams, that's another question that we have to answer. Because if you look at us over the course of maybe the first 28, 29 games, we were elite at doing what we were doing, and that got us into the position that we were in. Are we elite at the moment at building up and playing through the opposition's pressure more often than not? Probably not. So we are going to have to really work at that. But we're also going to have to make sure that we don't lose, or we try our very best not to lose a lot of what made us such a competitive team over the course of most of this season. So yeah, I think we've always been a group of people and a group of players that respond well to setbacks. We stay level. We're constantly trying to find iterations to the way we play to deal with what gets thrown at us. And obviously at the moment with the size of the squad and some of the setbacks we've encountered in that sense, and some of the periods of adaptation that are fairly obviously required across a couple of players, then we are going to be that team, I think, between now and the end of the year. But that in some senses excites me because I enjoy that as a coach.
Time for one or two more, guys.
I mean this in a lighthearted way, and pardon my language, but is Thunder Bastard part of your vernacular?
No, it's not, but perhaps it will become that way if he scores one more.
All right.
Got
That has to be the last question.
All right. Safe travels.
Good. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Thank you.